Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that I have been thinking about a lot lately. I guess quarantine, it just kind of makes you overthink things. But something that people have been saying to me my entire life. My entire life. And I want to be very clear that I understand that when people say this to me, it's not ever meant to be offensive and it's not ever meant to be mean. I understand that they mean it as a compliment. I kind of feel bad about making a video about it because it does kind of feel like making a mountain out of a molehill. But I feel like as a disabled person, if I'm going to make a mountain out of a molehill about anything, I'm kind of allowed to choose this. And of course, any disabled person already knows what I'm talking about, even without looking at the title of this video. It is that classic, I don't even think of you as disabled. I just forget that you're in the chair sometimes. There are kind of two parts to why I hate this so much, and why I don't like it, and why maybe if you're going to say that to someone who's disabled, you should maybe think twice about it. The first part is the sort of general implied ableism. When you tell me that you forget I'm disabled, or I'm not like other disabled people, your insinuation is that you have an idea in your head already, a picture of what a disabled person is, and what it means to be disabled. And somehow you've decided that I'm an outlier and I should not be included in that category. The term disability is so broad. The range of disability, it's just so massive. In there you have physical disabilities, you have mental disabilities, you have permanent disabilities, you have temporary disabilities, you have, people become disabled with old age, you have people who get disabled in accidents, you have people like me who are born disabled, you have disabilities that just affect one section of the body, or disabilities that affect the whole body, and disabilities that get worse as they progress, and disabilities that stay the same. There's just so many disabilities that the idea of having one sort of vision of what it means to be disabled, as many people do, it's just not right, and it kind of doesn't make sense, especially when you think about, more specifically, disabilities. I don't require the same care that someone with, cystic fibrosis does by any chance, or someone with, a mental disability, or someone with MS, or there's just so many disabilities that to imply that I'm not like other disabled people doesn't make sense. I am similar to other disabled people, especially other disabled people with my disability, but then I'm not similar to people with other disabilities. And not only that, but to say that I'm not like other disabled people also kind of insinuates that you kind of have a negative view of what it means to be disabled, which is also not right and not good, because disability doesn't really mean anything other than something doesn't work the way it does on a vast majority of the population. And like it or not, every person on this planet is going to be affected by disability in some way, whether it's them personally or someone close to them. To have that kind of negative view of disability, while it does do harm to the disabled community, it also is going to do harm to you when you have to face that someday and realize that either maybe you're disabled, maybe someone near you is disabled, and you're going to have to work through that. I'm sorry, you are going to have to work through that. And the masses, if I can say the masses, tend to have a negative view of disability. I know this. I don't notice when I go places and people stare at me and they make comments and that sort of thing. I don't notice it because I am so used to it that it does not faze me, and it's probably part of the reason why I am so weird, because I have lived my life with the philosophy that if they're staring at me anyway, I might as well do whatever the heck I want, right? But it really bothers some of my friends, and it really bothers my sisters, and it doesn't bother them. I'm like, oh, they're staring. It bothers them because it makes them mad that people are staring at me, because how rude can you be? And I've just come to accept throughout my life that a lot of people are very rude, and they see disabled people as less than human. So I'm asking you to be smarter than that. Don't have a negative outlook on disabled people. I am not an outlier. I am similar to a lot of disabled people, and honestly, a lot of disabled people are better than me. So just get that out of the way. But then the second half is to say that you don't see the chair or you forget that I'm disabled. It feels like you're ignoring a significant portion of who I am. Yes, I am a human separate from the wheelchair. The wheelchair is not attached to me. I can, get in and out of it. But in a lot of ways, it is an extension of me and of who I am. Everything that I think in this life, everything that I do, everything that I say is influenced by my experiences as a disabled woman. and specifically a woman with osteogenesis imperfecta. Everything that I do has to be thought of through the lens of, is this safe for me? When I drive through the hallways, at work or at the mall or whatever, I always look into doorways. That is just something I have always done because people have a tendency to just run around and flail and not watch what they're doing. And because I'm breakable, I always have to watch to make sure that I'm not about to be run into. This is something that I don't do consciously. This is something that I do unintentionally. I have always done it. I always look down every hallway. It's far beyond looking twice before you cross the street. It is, I always look in the doorways. I'm always driving a little bit slower so I can be sure, so I can back up in time if I have to. These are all reflexes that I have developed throughout my life to keep me safe because I am breakable. And like it or not, me being disabled is, maybe I like makeup and it has nothing to do with being disabled. But my view on the makeup industry is because I am disabled. I look at, even Dove's campaign for real beauty and that sort of thing. I know that I rag on campaigns like that all the time, but they're always like, look at our diverse group of women, but there's never a disabled person in it. And I always advocate for things like that, and that is directly because I grew up in it. I grew up, not seeing myself represented on TV or in books or in movies or anything like that. So when someone tells me that they forget that I'm disabled, it's like, okay, so you forget one of the most fundamental parts of what makes me me. What do you know about me then? What do you think about when you think of me? Because when I think of me, I think of, she's disabled. And I don't see that as a negative, and I don't see that as being rude. I see that as, that's just who I am. When people don't know your name, and they're like, the woman in the red shirt, that sort of thing. I have always seen people, when they do that to me, struggle to not say in the pink wheelchair, They'll be like, with the black hair and the liner and the... I'm like, would you just say pink wheelchair? It's not offensive. It's not rude. It's, it's not this thing that needs to be danced around. I know that I'm in a wheelchair. I have been in a motorized wheelchair since I was 2 years old. It's okay. You're allowed to talk about it. You're allowed to ask me questions. You're allowed to say things. Of course I have issues with when random people come up to me on the street and ask me, how do I pee? Or how do I have sex? That is weird. That is strange, especially because I don't know you. But usually the people who are saying to me, I forget that you're in a wheelchair sometimes. Usually those people tend to be a little bit closer to me. I know them to a certain degree. And if someone like that, has a question, I have no problem with being asked questions like that. Basic things. I would rather you know more than, always wonder or make assumptions yourself. When you're disabled like I am in such a visual way, you kind of lose some of that barrier that keeps people from asking questions. They're kind of used to being asked weird questions at weird times and weird invasive questions. You just are. So when it's somebody that you already kind of know, it's a little bit refreshing to have them ask questions. Because randoms are already asking me those questions, So the next time you go to tell your disabled friend that you forget that they're disabled sometimes and that you just don't see them that way, I have to ask you, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you don't see them that way? How do you see disabled people? How do you think of disabled people? Is it a negative reaction automatically? Because in that sense, I would think that reflects more on you than it does on your disabled friend, and I would think that you would have to then be a little bit more introspective and think about, why do you think this way about disabled people? And how do you fix it, to be honest with you? Because that's really not the best outlook to have on disabled people. And I really don't think we deserve it. And then I'm asking you to look outward. If I tell my disabled friend that I don't see them as disabled, how do I actually think they're going to feel? Are they going to feel great because for somehow I've isolated them from the disability community as a whole? Or are they going to be a little bit upset by it because by saying that I don't see them as disabled, am I telling them that I don't see their struggles that they go through on a daily basis and who they are both, as a result of those struggles and who they choose to be maybe in spite of those struggles and what they've had to go through in their life and where they have to go and how do they get there and the little things that they have to do every day as a result of being disabled. If you were to take my disability away from me, I don't know what would be left. Like, there might be a girl who likes to do her winged eyeliner, but I don't know what else there would be because everything that I like is so influenced by my disability. I got a reptile that had to be smaller because I definitely didn't want a pet that was bigger than me. I love houseplants, but I choose smaller houseplants because I'm small and I need to be able to like pick them up and do things. So I typically buy 4 or 6 inch pots. I can't have a big one. That's just not how it goes for me at this point. These things are just such natural reactions for me because I'm disabled and because I know how I am. And I don't know that I would like me if I wasn't disabled, to be honest. I think it gives me a certain compassion that I don't know that I would have without it. I think I might just be a straight up bitch without being disabled. And that doesn't mean that I'm not already, I just think it would be worse. And anyway, that's all I really wanted to talk to you about in this video. It's just something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, so I thought it was worth a quick little video. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!